Yep.
Good to see you, Camp.
Welcome back to the Retro Sports Gamer channel, and this is another Retro Sports Gaming Monthly for August 2018. And we got a bunch of dudes in the house tonight. First of all,
being dudes.
You got the two co-hosts back in action. Missed last month, but they're back. Nick the Commish.
I'm glad I'm out of jail so I can join these things again.
Woo!
Out of jail.
And we got Trojan Voice wearing the Tecmo Jam t-shirt.
Absolutely. Looking forward to be extremely tired tomorrow morning. I'm sure I'm going to drop like a ball bearing on my foot. Something like that.
And then for the first time, we got Camp.
What's up, fellas? It's good to see you. Been a while.
Long time, Camp. Good to see you, man.
It's almost a year, Mort.
Yeah.
Camp runs a Cascadian F and Tecmo League, so we'll talk a little bit about that when we report some of the tournament results. And then to my left, you might be seeing him, right?
Yeah.
There he is, Mort, the legend, the Tecmo legend.
A man who needs no introduction.
Yes. You guys probably know who he is. We're going to talk to him about the Tecmo Players Championship. And Troy, Nick, do you have any questions for Mort right off the bat?
Why are you so amazing? Let's start off with that.
Oh, jeez, that's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't really think I'm that amazing. It's just one thing led to another thing, and I guess if I'm amazing, it just happened.
It is. It just cream comes to the top, man.
Guess so.
So, Mort, I wanted to ask you, what was your motivation to create the Tecmo Players Championship?
I've gone to a lot of tournaments, and I wanted to see a tournament that had a high prize on it. You played a lot of games, and then I felt like also after you played the games, eventually to win the tournament, you might be pushed a little bit outside of your comfort zone and win that way as well. But overall, having fun, a high prize, but yet a challenging system.
And what is the format for the Tecmo Players Championship for those who might not know? How many games are we actually playing here?
So for the Tecmo Players Championship, ideally, we're looking for a group of 12 guys. If we could get 24, great, 2 groups. And we're looking to play in the opening round. Everybody will play everybody once in a round robin. As you play each matchup, you can only play in a matchup one time per tournament. So say if I play myself in a Miami versus Rams, for the rest of the tournament, I can't play in that game again. A little added spice as you run out of matchups. Another kick I put in was I made it impossible to use New England versus Seattle or New England versus Indianapolis, any of those 3 teams combined. I mean, you can still do a Seattle-Green Bay. I did the same thing with the top teams of San Fran, Buffalo, Houston, and the Giants. This way, there's a lot of luck in Tecmo, and I feel I wanted to eliminate some of the matchups that are more luck than skill. I can't eliminate all of them, but I mean, just a few of them are eliminated this way and makes it even more challenging. As you play more and more games, you're slowly going to run out of matchups you like. Maybe in the opening round, you get rid of matchups you don't like. But eventually, you're going to get to a point where you might have to win the tournament, say, I'm going to have to go way outside of my normal boundaries and do something. But you know what? I've been thinking about it right now, and I think I can win at this.
Yeah. Well, I've already signed up for the tournament, and I've been strategizing, like, what am I going to do? What matchups am I going to call? Well, in pool play, if you win pool play, first place is going to get a cash prize right off the bat.
Yes, correct.
So that's the reason you would use some of your matchups in the pool play. So I was thinking like, oh, well, we'll see how my first 5 games go, and then I'll see if I'll start burning some of my matchups that I like, or if I save them for the playoffs, because everybody advances.
Yeah, everybody advances too, no matter which format we use. And then once you advance into the main bracket, although it's single elimination, they're best of 3. So I'll say that first game, and we've all had that, where you fumbled 2 times or you just made a boneheaded play. well, you're going to get one chance after that to try to round it. Also, it makes the matchup calling like that way, instead of constantly flipping the coin, by this point, the guy is the higher seed can decide, well, I'm going to call matchups game 1, game 3, or I'll call the matchup in game 2. You will call it game 1, game 3. Just a little added spice on it, but to make sure that when you win the best of 3 series, there's one game where you call the matchup and one game where you don't. It kind of evens out with the coin flip. You never know. You can go a whole tournament and call 10 matches. You can go a whole tournament and call none of them.
Yeah.
Wow, can you imagine the difference? Like if Ones and Manuel played a best of 3 series, it would take like probably like 3 hours between pick and place and everything.
But to your guys' knowledge, has anyone, since these Tecmo tournaments started popping up the last 15 years or so, has anyone done a high buy-in, high payout type of tournament like this?
Not that I know of.
Maybe mafia bosses and stuff, one of those things. Secret rooms. None publicly.
All right, so Mort, what players do we have signed up for this thing right now?
Right now, of course, both of us have signed up.
Yeah.
We have Daniel Patrick Slarity, Joseph Moore signed up, and also won our satellite tournament to get a free entry, and I refunded his money.
He beat Tecmo Bo, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did upset Tecmo Bo.
He's a solid player.
Yeah, solid player. Very solid player. It was a very surprising and good match. It was a great test of the format overall. We had a lot of fun, but the format really showed through as well. And then we didn't play nearly as much games on that day as we planned to play in the final tournament. Now, my brother signed up. He's got a plane ticket. He's on his way out. Tecmo Psycho, a former Madison champion from a couple of years before the Joey Yats run started, has signed up. And then as well, that's 7 so far. And now we've had a lot of talk from another guy who's won Madison 3 times. And he says he's ready to sign up, and I'm expecting him to actually sign up any day now. Hopefully, maybe his roommate will sign up too. That might be nice. We got a couple other Madison champs. I got a guy who's won the Midwest tournament a couple times, just thinking about it. I got a lot of very good players who are thinking about it and then trying to make sure that their plans with their life lines up with Tecmo, of being able to make it out to Chicago. And I'm hoping to get 16 people. If we could get 24, great. But, I mean, no matter how many people we get for this tournament, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a good time. I bought a trophy. As I kind of mentioned in the post, I bought the whole pimp outfit deal, so the winners can get that too. Yeah, I got the champion ring. I'm like, I got this little scepter pole they gave me that I'm going to deck out with a football on top of it. I'm going to get you some bling if you win this tournament, besides, of course, the big cash prize.
What's Flo's status other than the fact that it's his birthday today? Happy birthday, Flo. Is Flo in the tournament?
Oh, Flo is in. I mean, this is the king of high rolling. Let's put down $20 a game.
King of pimp suits, the primetime pimp suit.
Yeah, and I mean, the pimp suit has his name written on it. I mean, Flo can come down from Elgin, the 45-hour drive from Elgin to Chicago. I mean, he's pumped up. He's already won the hardcore tournament in Chicago, and now so he's got the monkey off his back too. He's going to be tough to beat.
And before we started this, we had Nick the commish complaining that we need to give out something besides Tecmo T-shirts because his closet was full of nothing but that.
Yeah, exactly.
So in the Tecmo Players Championship, all the money's going out to the players.
Yep. Everything I collect is going out to the players for the prize money. And I've invested a little bit of my own money into it as well, buying systems. I've bought a number of controllers, around close to 15, 20 on hand. I've bought a number of systems. I've refurbished. We have TVs. We have almost all the equipment we'll need. I asked a couple guys if you're coming, if you want to bring a system, a couple controllers just in case. But, I mean, we have everything we need in the bar. The bar already has 2 systems. I have about 6 working right now. Tom has a couple. Right. And then we got quality equipment.
I got plenty for you.
Yeah, I imagine that too. So that's not an issue here. I got a whole lot of
I'm going to put it out here now. We'll be announcing that tournament. That's happening.
What did you say?
With TGFN, we're going to be announcing your tournament. So that's happening.
Awesome.
I'm going to put that out there right now.
Oh, that is great. That's
So
great.
that should solve your Gats and Hank problem as well.
No, you guys might. The problem is, like, I think the one thing you got to need to do is you probably need, like, what always happened is I remember my uncles when they would play like high stakes poker. Eventually, they'd always get robbed. Somebody would rob their poker game, so you might have to have somebody at the door. You're gonna get rolled with all that money there.
Yeah. Well, if somebody wants to try to get through my brother and me.
Mort is actually 8'6". I think
he is a lot bigger.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
the other reason my brother's coming. And then I also got Tecmo Cycle. He's a big guy too. Tom,
yeah, he is.
Big. I got some guys out here that they can protect the cash flow.
Got some muscle.
Plus, I can tap really fast in their eyeball.
There you go.
That's how you take them out.
I hope it doesn't have to resort to that.
No, I don't think that's a problem.
So I kind of talked about this a little bit, but how do you think players will strategize with their matchup calling in this? Will they just save all of their matchups for the playoffs, or will they, pick some of their favorite ones in pool play?
I thought about a couple ideals. In the satellite tournament, what I did was I played a lot of matchups that were I did a Chicago Buffalo. I did a Seattle versus, I think, a Seattle Green Bay or Seattle Cleveland. I did a couple matchups throughout there, matchups that I had no intention of calling it if I ever got to elimination games. That was one ideal. And since I was using I don't think in the elimination portion, anybody's going to be calling too much of the restricted teams versus the non-restricted teams. I don't think they'll call too many of those at that point. So I was like, early on, why don't I use a couple of these? I was thinking a couple of days ago, another strategy is find all the matchups you've lost in tournaments and call those matchups in opening round. That way, when you get to elimination games, like for me, you might see me call Miami Rams and then some Green Bay Cleveland, then some Green Bay Seattle, then call some Washington versus the Rams. I might eliminate a few games like that, and maybe a couple matchups with the damn Bengals.
Mort, I have a question for you. So just to clarify, so let's say Tom calls a matchup against you. So he calls Green Bay, Cleveland. So, okay, so let's say you win. You won that matchup. Now Daniel Patrick Slattery hasn't played in that matchup. He has to be now cognizant of what you've already played before he can call his matchup?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, interesting.
So if he played either of us after that, if Tom and me played Green Bay versus Cleveland, nobody could play either of us in a Green Bay Cleveland.
That's crazy. Wow, 12 games. That's gonna be some really interesting matchups on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need Brewdog to do one of those charts where they're all connected and like the probability of it when it happens is gonna go really low. I'm sure he's already got the spreadsheet done.
Yeah, he's got some awesome spreadsheets to show everyone. I was asking him some questions the other night about the best defenses, and he had the chart on hand. All the numbers. I'm like,
God bless Brewdog.
Yeah.
On the Mount Rushmore at Tecmo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I think also that for a stream, if TGFN's covering this one, then for sure I think people are going to want to see like different matchups with some of the best players, because
absolutely
there's a tendency to see like the classic matchups all the time at every tournament, and sometimes that gets a little stale. And I know even at the hardcore tournament, Troy, you're like, oh, this is fun calling this because we're seeing matchups that we don't see at all the other tournaments.
Absolutely, and even just the playbooks were a little bit different in some cases as well. Some of that risk reward that was there. Now, Tom, are you going to have your stream there as well? You're going to do the same thing where you had it kind of on both ends?
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. More coverage is great for the viewers.
Yep.
Oh yeah. The viewers are going to get quality Tecmo nonstop during this.
So, Mort, what is the best reason for a player to come play in this tournament?
The best reason I can think of, if you want to play a whole bunch of games against very good competition and matchups you don't normally play against these guys and have tons of shots at them, I mean, I'm guaranteeing you at least 11 12, 13 games. Somewhere in that number is being guaranteed. And then, of course, there's the other reasons, the prize money, hanging out with some guys. But I think that's the ultimate reason. And a lot of these games, a lot of these tournaments, if you win the tournament, you'll play maybe 9, 10 games of Tecmo on that day. Most people who go will play 4 to 6, maybe 7. Maybe the average is somewhere between 6 and 7. So this is a chance just to be guaranteed 13 games, which I think is pretty awesome. And then the quality of player you're going to play against is very high.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, just getting tons of games in on a single day of Tecmo, and knowing that I have a shot no matter what, no matter how those pool play games go. If I could take 2 out of 3 each round, you know, I have a chance of winning it all. So I think it's a pretty bulletproof format for the cream rising to the top.
I felt like you had to kind of do something like that, dude, when you started talking about a big prize and a big buy-in. You had to be like, well, if somebody's going to do a big buy-in, they ain't going to want one and done.
No, you can't have single elimination or stuff like that. No, I agree.
So I want a quick ask. So assuming you get 12 players, that's 11 group play games. That's about 5.5 hours of group play. What time does this start?
Tournament start time is definitely going to be 10 o'clock if I can't get it any earlier. As soon as you show up, you're going to start your games. I mean, there is in case one guy who's contacted me about entering and being late, I have a plan so that it's fair to everybody who comes. But once we finish the group play games, he might have to take a couple losses. But besides that, if we're going to start,
still in the dance, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I figure we start at 10 o'clock. Group play should be done by about 4 o'clock. Then each round should take an hour after that, and hopefully we're done around 9, 10 o'clock.
I really hope an unknown shows up and just rattles all you guys. Even if they suck, you're going to be so rattled. Like, who is this guy? Because it's going to be a lot of tight buttholes planned with all the money on the line.
Yeah, that too. They're going to be real tight. I mean, I lose like,
which is always a plus because it kind of stinks at these Tecmo tourneys. So a tight butthole would be good, I think.
Oh man,
that's a BWAG. Buttholes clapping, tight buttholes clapping.
So before we move on, do you guys have any other question for Mort about the Tecmo Players Championship?
I'm just want to make sure you got your ducks in a row because I can't imagine, when you gotta come in between and like make a ruling on something. That'd be my biggest worry with all that money on the line.
I would be more worried about it if it was like 5 or 6 years ago. But I feel about this time that with the rules, like all these tournaments pretty much have almost all the same rules, the same guys playing, the same expectations on what happens, like if the game freezes and things like that as well. And I hope people can trust me that I'm going to keep everything as fair for everybody who shows up, from my brother to a person I never met until he showed up and paid down $150.
Cool.
More is this is not hardcore rules though, right?
No. This will be Madison rules for the actual gameplay.
And you have a process set for making sure all the matchups, like you record all the matchups so that nobody's going to get caught doing the same one.
Oh, yes. We'll all have a sheet available. We used it. Tom came up with it. It's a great system. Each person will have a sheet available. And then as the tournament goes on, I'll go through a few people's sheets and make sure. Of course, it will be pretty obvious if you play in the same matchup twice. And I'll see Buffalo versus the Raiders one time. Then I'll see it again another time. So we will know.
Yeah.
And that does not. I don't think you see with this group of people we have right now. I don't think I have to worry about it. I really don't. I think everybody who comes to the tournament, that's going to be part of the fun of the tournament, is figuring out matchups, making sure that somebody doesn't play it twice. That's just going to make it more interesting for you.
So, what's the over or under action on the number of games before Tom selects Buffalo, Philadelphia?
I think Lewis might select it before he gets a chance. That's one of my brother's favorite matchups.
I give him so much crap for that.
Yeah,
So-
you know, sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't. But last time I called it the qualifier, that was the best game I played with the Eagles versus DPS.
Yeah, yeah.
But other than that game, it didn't go as well as I thought it would. So,
Super Bowl's coming to mind. Moving on.
yeah.
Hey, Mort, has Lou started growing out his hair for Burning Mort next summer?
No, I didn't know he was supposed to grow out his hair for Burning Mort.
I thought he said he was going to go all caveman.
That might have changed. That might have changed from his girlfriend. That may not be happening. I'll talk to him about it. I'm going to see him this weekend. I'll talk to him about it. I don't think it's going to be happening, but you never know.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about, guys, and this is moving. This will segue into our discussion topic. Is I know I've brought this up a couple times before on these. Is the Simulation FL, the All Pro 2K8 Simulation League that runs on Twitch and YouTube. So have you guys been able to check this out yet?
I've got a little bit on Twitter. When they would post something. I think that's their site.
Yeah. So the reason I'm bringing it up is because they are running their season now. So when I first heard about it, I think they were at the end of it. And so they basically every like weekend and on like Sunday, they're running games on Twitch and YouTube like all day long. And the thing that they have going for them is the people in that community flock to those streams, and they really support each game. So you go into one game, they have easily 40 viewers on one single game. Their championship game their last season was like over 6,000 followers at once.
That's amazing.
Or viewers. So, they just do a good job supporting their stream. If you haven't checked it out yet, there was a game that happened today. I did watch one of the games, and the way you want to view it is on an HD TV, like you're watching a football game. And they're much shorter than a regular game. It's like more like an hour. But there was a game between Vancouver Legion and Alaska Storm, and it went down to the wire. So if there's a game you want to watch, that is a game that I would turn it on for 45 minutes. I think it's an hour, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Check that game out and see how the experience is, because it's kind of something you have to wrap your head around, because they're not playing the game, but it's almost like fantasy football in a way too. But they have more control over it because they're calling plays and they're interacting with the community the whole time. So that's something you want to check out. So the question that I have for you guys is, like, there's so many, the Tecmo community is pretty large, and there's so many people doing streams out there. But when I look at a Tecmo player's stream, it's like there's maybe 3 to 10 people in there. So do you guys think there's like a lack of support from the Tecmo community on people who are streaming playing Tecmo Super Bowl?
I think one thing is there's a lot of guys still that are like, what the fuck's Twitch? I think that's really what it is. They love Tecmo and they're like, what? Fuck it, I ain't doing it. That's my thought.
What about you, Troy? Because I know, like, if you get so many viewers on Twitch, then Twitch like starts promoting your video. Is that the way it works?
Well, eventually you can become a partner. So, and that's where you lead to monetization, and there's other cross references if you use websites and things like that to get yourself noticed. Even like affiliate links for different products and things like that, which is not a particular goal that we have. Ours is just predominantly just to grab the content and make it available to those that are interested in seeing it. I think the biggest thing for me is not really knowing when something's going. So like the tournament's going on, like you guys always have your Monday night thing. It's like clockwork unless there's a holiday or something. You're almost always there on Monday. I know, and when I get done with work, boom, I can watch you guys play some Tecmo and some other stuff. And I know I'm going to be entertained. If I can tune in for 15 minutes or a half hour, an hour or two, whatever the length of time is, I know I'm going to have fun. With some of these other streams, you have really no idea what's going on. There's no commentary. I think like one or two guys might have some commentary. You don't understand the context of, like, if you're just a random guy that played Tecmo Super Bowl and you get in there and you see, I'm not picking on these guys, with the GTFO or HSTL, like what is that? You know, if you don't understand, oh, these are draft leagues that people are playing in, and so that's why the logos are different. That's why Joe Montana's on the Chiefs or something, you know, where he doesn't belong. People don't understand that, like, this is weird, and then there is very little interaction with the chat because the guys are too busy trying to win the game. So they're playing the game, but there's no one keeping an eye and interacting with chat. That's something that your channel does very well. You guys are constantly checking to see what the conversation that's going on, keeping the viewer engaged. So I think there's very little to keep those people hooked. You have to have really good commentary, or you have to have interaction with the chat, and then planning. If you don't know when these streams are going to be, they're all over the map. Oh, well, these guys are streaming because they're both playing right now. Well, they played at 7 o'clock on one night, 9 o'clock on another, and they didn't inform the world that this was going to be happening. So you're lucky if you catch them. They might get 3 viewers on the broadcast versus, like, you probably get 40 viewers or more in a total Demon Tap night. I could be completely off on that, but I know it's way more because the chat's active. So it's bringing it back. I think it's just inconsistency in the communication on who would actually be interested in getting that information out to public. This is going to happen now. We want to know when that is.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions that I had next. But Camp, what do you think about this?
I think it mirrors just kind of how, like, I agree with Troy that when you have just regular season games, it really is just mirroring, like, it just happens to be when these two guys can play. And I've kind of felt like I've been on both sides of this, because for the longest time, like, before all these guys are streaming, I pretty much streamed every freaking game that I played, and I barely got very many viewers unless there was like it was like an end of a season, like playoffs or something like that. And what we would do in certain leagues is you'd promote, okay, well, let's do the AFC Championship on this night, or do the Super Bowl on this night, and then just schedule it and then tell people that's when it's going to happen. And they do that to a certain extent with, like, HSTL with Super Bowls. Like, they'll have them play, and then, like, the Commissioner Hoff will go ahead and stream it at a given time. I think it's something that if like Troy was saying, if you want to promote and get Tecmo to be seen more, the ones that you tend to see that get a lot of viewers are the leagues that are, it's the end of the season where people know it's like playoffs. Weekends, because or tournaments because they're on weekends, and that's live, and you actually see, like, a lot of times you have the video cams of the guys that are playing, and it's just the guys. I think most online players of Tecmo, they deal with Tecmo when they can watch. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can almost only watch Tecmo as much as when I would want to play it. I just don't have that much time, unfortunately, and that was a lot different, a couple years
that's
back.
why I was thinking the time thing too.
But yeah, and I got burnt out from, like, I streamed a ton, and I was running leagues and whatnot, and I wasn't seeing a lot of, a ton of, interaction, not interaction, but viewership or whatever. And then I noticed that there's been a ton of other people starting to stream, which is kind of like what I really wanted. But then in my heart, I was like, man, I just don't really have, like, the time to watch it right now, or it's just a regular season game, and then there's the other part, like Troy was saying, was people are still learning how to basically create their stream so that it communicates, like, who's playing, what I always try to do, what league it is, who's playing what, which teams were which, and like what week it was, like if there was, if they put records on, and who, like, one team's like 12-1 and the other's like 9-4, something like that. But I think as a whole, I don't really think we honestly have a ton of people that literally interact by playing online. If you think about, like, the amount of people that play online, especially with how many leagues we have now, it's down to, like, There's only like 3 or 4 leagues, but I mean, think of how many people do you think are actually playing online Tecmo right now? You know what I'm saying? Like
within the last 6 months, maybe 50.
Yeah, and I think it's been around that for a long time, but a lot of those 50 are in multiple leagues now, right? Like well, maybe not in multiple leagues. Because I know TTL is a really what I like about TTL is that it incorporates the OG ROM, which most other leagues do not. But I think where you see most of the viewership these days are tournaments, and then like end of the online seasons when they actually do promote it beforehand. So,
yeah, good explanation there. So, has anyone tried to go ahead?
Well, one thing I was also going to say is I've noticed this. Most phones, they come with the YouTube app on it, especially if you have Google, something through Google like Android. Like with Twitch, you have to download it. And yeah, it's real easy to download the Twitch app, but it just may not naturally be on my phone. Like that's the one thing I like about having the YouTube app right away. When you do something on YouTube, I see it a lot easier. And it could be something as simple as that for all we know.
Yeah, I think you got to figure out who do you want to see? I mean, your big people are the ones that just go down a wormhole. That are like, I wonder what. I love Tecmo, and they go to YouTube and they type in Tecmo, and they're going to watch something that's already probably previously recorded. I guess I'm farther on the other spectrum of just a casual, But when I really would watch streams a lot, it was because I wanted to get better. And Troy did a great job on the last things he did with the TGFN, with the presentation. Those are fun. I was kind of Tecmoed out after Madison, but I ended up watching a lot of those because they're so good.
Oh, thanks for that. Appreciate that. I mean, we had some pretty good viewerships when we scheduled. We announced, especially when we announced who was playing, and we got these nice little frames of this picture. We had some fun with that too, and we kind of get some goofy, like Bill Murray for one guy on, and some other stuff. But it made it pretty interesting, and they're about half the players are recognizable names, and they had a lot of fun. By the way, I just want to mention Flo is in chat. Happy birthday to Flo. If you're in chat, give him a happy birthday or give him the middle finger. Either way.
Happy birthday, Flo.
Happy birthday, Cal.
Sorry, I peed on your grave.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that too. Well,
No, you're not.
well, he wasn't in there apparently. We thought a zombie wasn't in there when he peed on it. That was good.
I think one more thing about how things are with both YouTube and Twitch, especially most guys do this on Twitch where they make their content available to see on demand after the fact, is it's still there for you to go and check out after the fact. So I think one of the coolest things that I especially when I was streaming a lot online is what's so funny, Mort?
He's laughing at the chat. He's laughing.
One of the coolest things was the fact that we were actually watching like a live event, like that was going down right now. And so that I still think that there's something to be said for that can be like, I don't know, the goal of, even just online, but definitely with the tournaments is that people want to participate when it's going down. But as a, more like Sega was saying, as a more casual person now, and, with kids and family and all that stuff, it's kind of do it when I can, which oftentimes is after the kids go to bed or whenever I have some free time. So,
and you're 3 hours away from us, so there's a whole other.
That was a real problem too, because most of when I could play is after when most guys would go to sleep, and then if I want to stream, then nobody's really watching then either. But that's
just like those Pac-12 games.
Yeah.
You gotta go hit up Metal Jesus. Maybe he'll host you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's opportunity for someone to do an overall stream schedule is what I'm getting at. Do you guys think that would help if someone did that? Or maybe there's something already out there, or maybe someone tried to do that already. I don't know, but
I do think that's having something consistent like you guys do on the Monday nights. I actually was thinking of, when I would have time was to start kind of going down getting something consistent and just going back through like old NSVs, and not even just my games, but there's a lot of historical games from some of the leagues of guys that are, legendary in status, and say, okay, here's a classic game from like such and such league between these two titans, and going at it, and just doing that, like picking a couple games to do, a podcast or a vlogcast on, and getting people to like, oh yeah, that was a hell of a game, or remember when that happened, but doing something consistent so that start building, a consistent viewership, I guess. I'm not ready to do that just yet. It's my only problem.
That's what we did for TGFN. All the games that were broadcast the games were played anywhere between a day to a week prior to when it was actually broadcast. They sent us the file, brought in our color commentator, and we did our thing. So there's a lot of merit to that. In fact, we had a lot more. There was a time when I would play a game and I would just put the replay out there, and you get like 10 views, and then you do it with the commentary. And then I think Tom was the first person that said something like, this is really something. Like, this is just way more interesting now. No one really cares unless you have someone else excited behind it. There's something about having that voice. It doesn't necessarily have to be my voice, just a voice that cares and is knowledgeable about the product on the field and can educate that viewer and say, this is why that happened. This is what you have to look out for. And it just makes it way more engaging. So especially if you have an inside track on the player. So this is a very tight-knit community in that you tend to recognize play styles. Gats, we all know his back and B prowess is incredible at the end of halves. Things like that. Those are the things that you can say, well, he likes to do this, and Mort likes to do that, or Tom likes to call Buffalo Philadelphia. but we all have the inside track on one another, and just to have that information. Education, entertainment, engagement. Those are three things that have to happen. Otherwise, you lose viewership and interest.
One of my ideals is that when we have these events, to have as many streams going as we can get up. What I like about it is, Troy, when you do your stream, Tom does his on his channel, uses your logo. You're the primary guy at it because you're sponsored and paying, and then that way, but you have secondary and more viewership. There might be people who know about Tom's channel but don't yet know about your channel, and then
got to cross the streams.
Yeah, don't cross the streams. But then basically it's like, if you have other people, maybe somebody comes in who has a stream and is looking for content, share, and like, especially with these opening rounds and a lot of these tournaments, so many games, so many good games they're just lost to the wind. They're not recorded anyway. And then, somebody, group play, knock yourself out. You want to get an experience of Tecmo, just bring your own internet connection. Make sure you can stream on your own. Don't rely on the bar Wi-Fi. But then maybe,
Yeah, we got a couple of comments from Flo in the chat. He says, you have to sell it to a guy who you assume is totally ignorant of Tecmo to an extent. And then he says, NFL commentators even talk to the audience like they barely know football.
Yeah.
True. Part of the reason why I think these new commentators are real popular, because they assume people know football and they give you advanced stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple Tecmo streams that I've been following, and I think that maybe the online guys don't get enough shine because they're kind of tight knit in their on what's going on online. But Troy, you brought up HTSL or HSTL. They do an excellent job on some of the stuff. Like, one of the things I listened to is the Hoff and Dynasty show a few times.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Their draft breakdown. It's Hoff, Nasty, and Matt DeGeorge. And they just, even though I'm not in the league, it's just fun to hear them talk about like why they think certain teams are good or why teams suck, or they're like the wrong combination sometimes, they feel like. So it's a good show. It's a good production, and that one definitely deserves more viewership for sure. And I haven't seen their website up until like the last couple months, and it's a good production. I don't know who runs that website, but it's very well done, and they keep good historical records of
that new website is glorious. I retired from HSTL right before that site, and I'm so sad I did, but I just kept on having sex and having kids, and I just couldn't.
Well, the credit goes to Drake. Drake's the guy that kind of moved the information from the old HSTL and basically created the new HSTL, where he has the player cards he has for it are sick. The only downside, it takes a little while to load certain things compared to what we're used to, but there's just a tremendous amount of information.
Wow, that's a name I haven't heard in 10 years. Drake.
Yeah, and Drake's been back in the scene for the last 3 or 4 years.
Oh, nice. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I was in one of his leagues. He used to have a state-of-the-art website for one of the leagues in 04 or 05, and then it was like groundbreaking at the time. So it's like, I'm glad to see he's back.
And then just for anybody who stumbled over us, HSTL is a redraft league of an original ROM. So if you love Tecmo as a kid and wish you could switch all the guys up and think about it, it's probably it's my favorite league of all leagues. It's a great thing to check out. Get on the waiting list.
And then one of the other things, one of the guys in the league, Tados, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Tadeos.
Tadeos.
I always called him Tadeus, but I think he does it Tadeos.
He has a YouTube channel, and I noticed he's been posting his games. So what he does differently is he puts himself on the camera, and he puts himself mic'd, and then he's like basically going through the emotions and telling you about why he thinks certain things should happen or not happen, or if something's bullshit, then he'll tell you about it. So that is like more fun to watch than someone who just streams the game outright. So I think he does a good job with that. And then the other guy is Darth Rockman with the TTL, the Tecmo
Flash 80. They do a great job.
Yeah, when they have like a big championship game, they green screen it. They go in the booth and they put on a two-man commentary production. So those are some cool things that I think people who view this channel and Tecmo streams should definitely check out as far as the online leagues are considered.
Yeah, promote that stuff. That's good stuff. I didn't even know about that TTL thing. That's great.
Darth Rockman created a Facebook account just so he could have a Facebook page for 3 people to follow it.
All right, you guys ready to talk about some of these past tournaments? Because we got a ton of them.
We got a ton of them.
Okay, so we're going to start off first. This is one that both Mort and I went to. Was in the Midwest tournament in Cincinnati, Ohio, or Fairfield, Ohio. And I'll report the results for the RBI tournament that they had the Friday night before. First was Matt Vogt. Second was Green Magic. Third, fourth was Mort and Chris Vogt. So RBI baseball, fun tournament. There was about 12 players. It was free. We had a good time. It was the night before the Midwest. Midwest Tecmo Super Bowl tournament. This was their 11th annual tournament, and it was a field full of all-stars, I felt like.
Like usual.
Yeah.
Toughest field in Tecmo.
Yeah, it's a tough field because, all the votes that run the tournament can play at the highest level, and then you got Tecmo Cycle there, and Joey Gatz was there this year.
Yes, just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
And better.
So this tournament, first place was Joey Gatz. Second was Matt Diaz, a position that he finds himself in at these tournaments frequently.
He's won this. I think he's won.
He's probably won it before, but he gets second place a lot.
Yeah.
Derek Rubel was third place, Tecmo Psycho, and fourth was Chris Vogt. Chris Vogt had a huge tournament. He actually knocked you out.
Yeah. But he was playing good.
He also beat Gatz in group play.
Yeah, so
that too.
For a guy who didn't win the tournament, he probably had the second best tournament, even though he wasn't second place, I would say. But overall,
was he running the whole thing at the same time?
Oh yeah.
Wow, good for him.
I had to speak to the stream was the single biggest improvement that I've just witnessed as far as how they presented that to the public. Derek Rubel did a fantastic job with that stream. There was very little frame drops. I watched that thing all day long. It was a joy to behold.
Yeah, I think the main thing was they got a direct line connection, some upgrades into the system, which is always good as well. But it was nice. I'm glad you guys liked the stream, and Chris wants everything possible for his tournament to improve, to get more people. David Fulcher even made a challenge to try to get 4 times as many people to come to the Midwest tournament and just recruit people. If they can make it next year, the Midwest tournament's a great time and great Tecmo.
And it's all for charity.
A lot of it's for charity. We give a lot of money for charity, but there is a cash prize too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun tournament. It was the first time I went. Definitely want to go back, and I think they already set a date for it next year, July 27th, if I'm not mistaken. So the next thing we got, and we got Camp here to talk about it. This was the same day as the Midwest Tecmo Super Bowl tournament. Is the Cascadia F and Tecmo League.
That's such a great name.
Great name.
What a name.
The Super Garage League.
It's technically Cascadia fucking Tecmo.
Okay.
And I think we're
Sponsored by Wilco.
To do some smaller seasons that I might call it a league for that. But what Cascadia effing Tecmo is a really, it's a way of trying to do a live season where you don't have to wait for one console, one TV the whole time, because I see what those guys do with TSB3 up in the Northeast, the No Frills, what is it?
Tough Guy League.
Yeah, Tough Guy League. But that's a lot of time. That's a lot of downtime for a lot of guys, and that's awesome for their dedication. But we want to get like a season done in a day, preferably. I mean, my goal would be to do a full like 16 game season. That's impossible to do in one day.
Yeah.
Those are long-term goals. And so and this wasn't really even my idea at first. It started last year in the spring. Manio got it in his head to do something like this, and he got Brewdog to create a hack for it. And honestly, that hack is just a fun hack, period, because the way it works, even if you're doing the original ROM, is if you play your games in preseason, it'll keep all the stats on season mode. That's and awesome. It will keep all the conditions. And so as long as you just put on an EverDrive, which is not cheap, but you can put that in there and play. And if whatever teams after their game, if somebody's in bad or even injured, they're going to be just like in a regular season game. You have to see what happens for the next game if they're going to come back. But honestly, like the league that it's very similar to is what you were talking about before, which was HSTL. So what we did was we used a spreadsheet that has been used at like the tournament that was in Chicago, I think it was. Was it MVG Sports that did it, where you used Brewdog spreadsheet and you drafted your team and you played the whole tournament with that team. I think that was about 3 years ago, 2015. But the idea is basically to do a season. And I wanted to do it with a little bit closer to even teams. And so we did a draft using a Google Docs, like a lot of these leagues do sometimes. And basically, I wanted to have it be beneficial for both us, we're playing live, but also still help us if we're wanting to do certain things about knowing different players or where they are in the game. So we locked the alignment for all O-line and all defensive players. So if you get somebody like Gil Bird, he's still going to be at his DB2 spot, if you draft the whole, San Diego Chargers secondary, which is how we had our tandem set up. So we did it last year, but we weren't able to get all of the fixings ready where we were able to have it act like a real season. Last year, we weren't able to get all the kinks worked out where you could have the conditions stay and keep from week to week, and injuries carried over. So basically, we played it kind of like every game. It started with everybody an average, like normal online leagues. It just came to that because we couldn't get it to work beforehand, but was able to get it to work this year, and it was amazing. The only thing that is really a big issue is time and being able to make the technical stuff work, because if something went wrong and I don't know, I didn't do anything different and it went wrong, there's a lot of time wasted. And so the way I thought about it is, we can get, we have 4 TVs in here, got 4 EverDrives in the community. And actually we got 5 total, but 4 worked out with how many guys we had. And so we could play 4 games at a time. And the idea was to have 15 guys. I want to invite as many guys as possible, do a full season, and then on the ROM itself, after every week, we take we have 4 different cartridges, 4 different SD cards, and with each SD card, there would either be 2 games or one TV had 1 game because it's 7 games in a week. And you merge all their stats, and then when you play it on the TV, it's acting, after the week is merged, everyone is the same. It has everybody's stats, it has everybody's conditions. It's just like playing on a real, a regular season on a, live console, except obviously we hacked the rosters. We throw on some extra fun stuff that doesn't really affect gameplay, like the tap meter. I hacked the crap out of the ROM with some fun Cascadia stuff. Manuel couldn't get over how he was like, "Is that bunny really smoking a joint?" See, bunny really smoking a joint. That really blew his mind away.
That's awesome.
And then to me, the capper of it all was Brewdog also created a hack where after the regular season, we could basically hack into the playoff bracket that you see after the regular season, all our teams according to where they were. And so a couple things happened. Number one, I learned how the Tecmo bracket isn't necessarily true to who should be home field all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the honestly the best seed to have home field throughout is the number 2 seed in the AFC. The number 2 seed in the AFC is going to have home field throughout no matter what. And if you happen to be the wild card team that plays the number 2 seed, and I forget if that's the 3-6 winner or the 4-5 winner, but if they beat the number 2 seed, then they have home field over the 1 seed and over the NFC Championship. It's just one of those weird quirks because we're dealing with a 25-year-old game.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I had a lot of highlights for the night. When we got the bracket to work was amazing. I planned to have a 10-week season with 15 guys. We had incorporated a couple buys where 3 guys had a buy for a week. So everybody was going to have 10 weeks, but we had a couple guys not show up. That created some what are we going to do now? And then with the time, we literally had to cut off a couple weeks or we wouldn't have gotten done in one day. And even with that, we finished the playoffs at 3:30 in the morning.
Ooh, Iron Man.
You could have woken up at 6:30 in the morning and saw a championship Tecmo on a Sunday morning. But to the credit of the guys that were here, we had 12 guys that were still here till 3:30 in the morning, and still the energy was up throughout. Really cool part because like Mort was saying for the Tecmo Players Championship coming up. Most of the guys that are there, it's just fun to get together with guys. Our runner-up in the AFC, who has been to every Seattle, or he was at the very first Seattle tournament and has been, in the scene since then, but he's never played online. His name is Stu, and he to me, he put it best. He's like, dude, this is the best because you take your team and you run with it. You try to make it work with your team over a season, and so we ended up getting it to work. There's a couple of snafus, literally the very first game, I have to do some special stuff to save stuff. I messed up the very first game. And so I had to put in the stats after the fact, but it didn't change any of the stuff that's actually on that we're playing with. It's just stuff that was on our website that Brixton Fowler created for us, which does a really good job of sharing stats, week to week. We put hacks in so we could track tackles. We could track.
Sounds like you have to be sober the whole time running this thing.
Let me tell you, I was not sober the whole time. In fact, not sober for much of it, but I tested the shit out of it really for a better part of 3 weeks. I put it, or 3 months, from end of March till July. I was testing just to make sure because I was really bummed we weren't able to get it to work last year. It worked out. We got all the guys here, and I tell you that to me. The winner ended up being Randy Fairfield, who had been in the online league back in I think 2002, Drake's term,
the bad boy of Tecmo years ago.
He has TL as well. But the highlight of in my view, and selfishly it could be because I ended up winning the game. My night was the AFC Championship. It was me versus DT. And let me tell you, with the conditions carrying over, there were some crazy conditions. Like he had literally, he had David Craig, Roger Craig, Greg Lloyd, and a whole bunch of other guys on his team, all in excellent, just to start the game. And I had LT, I think, in excellent. And the game was just back and forth. I scored a touchdown, or no, he scored a touchdown and LT blocked it. I scored a touchdown and Lloyd blocked my extra point. It's 6-6. And the whole time, we've also got Rudy, the tailback king here, who does not shut up. 3:30 in the morning, walk into the house. Rudy, can you please just, it's over. Can you keep it down? No, I can't keep it down. Can't. He's just the loudest, most obnoxious guy. And, so he also kept the energy up the whole time.
Post on Tecmo then. Totally.
Oh, yeah. And he's a great guy. But he's also, he got here on Friday night, and I basically.
It was a riot when I went out to Seattle. Riot.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you saw him at the Seattle tournament last year. He don't shut up. He just doesn't. And he's like, when it's 6-6, he's like, it's 0-0, just over and over again. 0-0, here we go. But basically, I was dead to rights, and LT just made some crazy things happen. DT ended up, I'd thrown some garbage up to Michael Irvin all day, and he was catching it. It didn't happen at the end of this game. He got the ball with up 7 with about 2.5 minutes left. He's in my territory. I do force him to a field goal, and LT got in there and crushed the holder before you could even get the kick off. And then with, about a minute left, I ended up getting the ball, and I threw another heave to Irvin, and Irvin caught one in double coverage. And my quarterbacks my plan was we had Chris Miller and Hugh Millen. And I was going to start Hugh Millen because he's a UW legend around here. We support the Huskies and all that. And the very first game, he goes into bad, just like in a lot of my practice seasons. And basically, Chris Miller balled out. So threw a CC to Irvin, got one, tied it up, basically, got the extra point, and then ended up doing a Hail Mary in overtime where barely escaped a diving he had San Francisco's D-line. Just a diving guy, got the ball off just the last second. It was just nuts. I really thought I was going to lose. Ended up winning. And then, just when those kind of things where it turns around just like that, that's just, everybody was hyped. It was just one of the funnest things. And then I got to play Randy. And if you don't see the video of that, and early in that, LT also blocked a punt in the Super Bowl. I had a 6-0 lead, ended up choking it away, but it was a lot of fun. We've been going over trying to do something in the fall again before things get too hard, because once it gets into the winter, it's hard to have the guys who live east of the mountains to drive over here. But the other part is trying to get guys to show up. Not easy.
Yeah.
Even we had a couple guys no show on the day of, and I think we'll just roll with this rule from now on. If people don't show up, we literally just roll die to see, okay, of all the guys who aren't playing this round, assign everybody a number, and whoever ends up, getting rolled, they'll play. And then DT helped a lot with figuring out all that stuff. I was like, okay, DT, you take care of that. Whoever's going to play for the two guys that aren't here. So that way you're not playing the computer, keeping everything, as even as possible. But yeah, it was a blast. Got to play live season. I can't wait to do it again. Things I would love to improve, obviously, like you guys are talking about with the streams. I really wanted to have the opportunity to broadcast more than just one TV at a time, like all 4 if necessary. And a couple times I put a little spots where there's 2 at a time, but we never got enough capture cards here working for the stream beforehand. Invader Star was the guy who helped out a lot with the technical stuff. And what he did end up doing, though, was capturing a lot of the other TVs where we'll be able to broadcast some of those games. We got all of our TV2 games, almost all of our TV4 games. And unfortunately, there's one game I really wanted to have footage of. It was Grip Smoke, who he's San Francisco. He got to play Tampa Bay. No, sorry, he got to play Detroit, and the guy who rolled for that was Rudy, the Tailback King, and Rudy beat Grip Smoke with Detroit. And I've been working on trying to create, a post to recap it all, but in the very first game of the day, and in that game, the guy who who was it at Tundra Bowl? Was it Elkins? No.
Emil Harry.
Yeah, Emil Harry. The guy who pulled out the Emil Harry card was Hartley Dykes. Hartley Dykes caught like 4 catches for 217 yards for Rudy just in that one game. And he actually, when I watched game 1 that was on our stream, he single-handedly won that game too for Detroit, where Vader Star was playing with them. So that's the fun with these things. Who's going to step up and make it a memorable thing, like a Hartley Dykes or like LT going nutso. And yeah, it was a blast, and I can't wait to do it again. This is where I want to put my passion towards in terms of or energy towards in terms of doing more Tecmo stuff, because it's easier for me as with the family to do it when everybody's here instead of trying to connect with online and then other technicalities like, oh, it's really laggy, or this, my button's not working, some stuff like that. So
yeah, you did a great job with it. If you didn't check it out live, your YouTube channel is Coach Huna, and you have a playlist of all the games on there. Really got to look at the overlay and all the work that you guys put into it to show like the injury report and the scores as it's going on. I mean, it was just an incredible amount of effort, and I wish I could have watched more of it live. If I wasn't at Midwest, I would be all over that. So, but good job with that, and I hope you continue to keep doing these seasons, because it's definitely a unique thing within the Tecmo Super Bowl community.
We will. I appreciate you tuning in. I saw Troy tuned in some. I wish we could have had more interaction. I try to get somebody to be, hey, come, hang out on the stream or whatnot. But there's just, when there's live Tecmo going on, I mean, we almost have to get like somebody like QB Browns who can just sit there and like broadcast and not actually be playing, which is hard to do with, a small amount of guys that we have. But yeah, the goal is to make it a lot more interactive with, somebody manning the mic. I actually planned it where like our last week was the 1 week where Tailback King was going to have a bye. And if there were games that had meaning, I wanted him to be on the mic, or at least in the background.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah. We got plans on doing it better.
It takes a while to get people in the mindset to, want to provide commentary and interact with the chat. I think one of the leagues I'm going to talk about for their results, the No Frills Tough Guy League, as they continue to go through all their seasons, you could see how experienced they are just interacting with everyone that's coming in to watch them.
But you want to talk about an entertaining stream for a game that I have such a small amount of time on and understanding of it, that version of the game. Those guys, the banter they have back and forth, and the social media posts that they make along the way, just ripping on one another with the puns, man. They know how to get down.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they have got some good stuff. All right, so let's get to some of these other tournaments. The same day also, there was 3 Tecmo tournaments this day. There was one in Tecmo Dallas at the Let's Play Gaming Expo. First place was Pookie. I'm not sure what his real name is, but he was first, and I believe second was Gerald Smith, Suicide King 81. So Gerald was saying that he was going to win a few of those.
He was talking smack all week.
And then he came up with a couple second place finishes at Tecmo Tour, but I'm sure he'll get one sooner or later. Then we got Cleveland, Ohio, Tecmo Jam Cleveland. There was 2 tournaments this weekend. One was Tecmo Super Bowl. One was NBA Jam TE. Troy, you were there commentating on the Tecmo Super Bowl tournament. So I'll report the results, and then I'll let you talk about it a little bit, Troy. First was Jordan Willis, Woodshed. So Woodshed is a player that has been at a lot of these tournaments, especially in Ohio, and he broke through and he won a huge tournament. This is probably one of the second most players right there with Tundra Bowl. Those two probably second two biggest as far as getting guys to the tournament. So he gets first. Second was Louis Boonagel, Mort's brother. What's that?
He had a great shirt on.
I forgot what it was. I remember
Segathon, baby. Segathon.
Oh, yes, yes.
He was rocking the Segathon.
Yeah, he was rocking the Segathon. Mort was third. And so, yeah, Mort, you could talk about this tournament too, because I guess you were third place at it. And then Jason.
I'll talk about the next day because Troy, well, you weren't there for the NBA Jam, so I was there for the NBA Jam. So I'll talk about that portion.
Jason Prock, I guess it is, from the Michigan, maybe Detroit area. He had a huge tournament. He got fourth place. And then silver, real quick, you had Brian Pell over Kevin Molnar, and bronze, Justin Nowacki over John Gross. So, Troy, what did you think of what you experienced over there in Cleveland?
Well, first off, I want to rip on Kevin Molnar immediately. He snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. He had it. He dropped two, let it go through his hands like Falcons Patriot style. But no, the tournament was very well run. Tom Jenkins had his hands full. The side things he had going on were great if you're waiting to get your game in. They had a Mortal Kombat 2, which is, of course, you all know is my favorite game ever. And then they had some driving games and a Frogger, and then they had some other side consoles just for, like, there was a lot of Tecmo widows that showed up, and they were playing like Mario Kart and stuff like that. So if you were bored, you were doing something wrong. Probably the most consoles I've ever seen. Not having gone to Madison, there were probably close to 20 consoles set up. As far as just dedicated for Tecmo, there were quite a few. The value there that they had at the Legion Hall was tremendous. Yingling was something like $3 or $2.50 or something. It was incredibly cheap. Really good comfort food there. They actually ran out of Yingling, so we had to switch over to something else after that. But man, they crushed it there. They were very quickly to get the food out to you. There were multiple vendors that they were selling Tecmo merchandise, the T-shirts that were included if you paid for those in your entry. They had the big play broadcast was there doing interviews as well. I'm not sure if those popped up anywhere. I know they had a photographer, videographer. I like their 3 bracket idea. All the championship games in all 3 brackets ended up being interesting, entertaining to call for different reasons. You saw obviously high level Tecmo at the top, but you still had entertaining games between players of comparable skill. It really seemed to balance itself out very well. There was a pause, of course, during the when they were trying to figure out the brackets. I know Mort was instrumental in helping out with that. Having experienced multiple Tecmo tournaments in the past, I think the delay was any longer than any other tournament I had been to. There were a couple guys that were drunk, and I didn't know who they were. They must have been local guys that were kind of like pissing and moaning about it. I think like you've probably never been to a Tecmo tournament like this, and it's not like having 10, 15 guys and you put it quickly into challenge and you're done. You got to add up all the win-loss records. You got to go through all the point differentials and make sure it's all fair. And one mistake and you could have a guy competing for the wrong bracket. So you got to be right on that. That's just due diligence. So they made it right, and once it was up running, it was smooth sailing. We were able to capture all of the gold games -1 as far as the rounds. We had grabbed a silver game while the gold bracket was going, still getting formed, and that kind of started before we were done with that. We were able to get all the final 4 games. The real interesting thing on the path to the end was Kevin Cabarella losing to Jason Prack in a matchup. The matchup was Dallas and the Rams.
Yeah.
Cabarella had the Rams and couldn't buy a covered catch or anything like that. He just and Jason was able to get into the final 4, and I ate my words, because we're saying Jason has no business winning this game, and he found a way to get in the end. Unfortunately for him, he went up against I think both Woodshed and Lewis in that. And
you played more.
Oh, did he play more? But basically, he couldn't function against those guys, and really the top three in the tournament. The one thing that I was a little disappointed in, this has nothing to do with the tournament. The Ultimate Weapon was there initially and left to watch Brian Dawkins get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
because that was a whole nother zoo that I experienced going through the travel for that. And I know that he's a guy that would be right there near the end competing for a top spot. And he had to step out of the tournament. So, but it was really the Bunagle brothers and Woodshed competing for it all at the end there. And Woodshed, it just played lights out.
He did. He played amazing.
He's known more for his intro antics with Jim Sox at the Tupa Bowl. Not anymore. Guy can play.
Yeah, that last game that he played, Lewis, was an elimination game for Lewis. It was an excellent game.
Lewis had an amazing walk-off loss, too. That was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, if Woodshed made any mistake from the games I saw on the stream, he did give up an interception there to give Lewis a chance, but he still came out in the end. But, yeah, like you said, Lewis just throws up a chuck from the middle of the field and then goes running from his chair before he knows what the result is. And it looked like it was timed right. His player jumped. I think it was Eric Metcalf, but he didn't come down with it, and that was the ball game.
Yeah, when he went for that jumping catch animation, we all thought we were going to see a game 2 there because it was double limit at the end. But no go. Woodshed went undefeated, and what a tremendous run for him. And now he's going to be on people's radars moving forward.
For sure. And then before we move on to the NBA Jam TE tournament, we can't forget about the tournament that was the same day, a Tecmo Super Bowl tournament that Nick the Commish was at, the Millards Mayhem.
yeah.
Yeah, I won this bad boy. Teen Wolf jersey, baby.
Nice.
So I'll let Nick talk about it a little bit, but I want to report the results. Joey Gatz won that tournament too, back-to-back weekends. Second was Retro Nate. He just can't get over the Joey Gatz hump. And then third was Jock, Chris Sammy Smith 33's brother. So
yeah, one of his many brothers. He's got like 1,000 of them. But if you didn't know him, he was probably related. It was a brother of Sammy Smith, basically. If you didn't know who the guy was. So no, it was great. It was a lower key tournament, so we had weird things because of Teen Wolf. There was one game where you'd switch. There would be random one time where you'd have to switch with your opponent controllers. So if you're up by 24, you switch, you lose that game. Was one of them. The first game you had to have Ron Wolfley in the matchup. Everybody, because it was so you had to, and then it was whoever had the most yards with Ron Wolfley got a prize. He had like a Mike Tyson punch outside game. It was just a blast. It was good. It was one of those things. We got kicked out of the 2D con last time, and I didn't think we were that bad. But we were close. We were close at this place too. Well, but it was fine. We were in a back room. It was a great place.
I think it was last year because I went to the Mayhem last year when a Sam pulled up the trophy and was like, if you played Tecmo, this is what you could win. That got us kicked out.
Oh, and then the other thing is when you got eliminated, it was single elim, but you got to go and pull a card out, and if it was a gold card, you got back in the tournament. So one was when I got out, I lost. Had a beautiful pass with Marino to Mark Clayton. One of those burn routes, and I'm just like, I'm just feeling so hot. I'm like, I'm going to stay in bounds and run the clock out. And of course, I get tackled inbounds, fumble. He wins back. So anyway, I lose. I'm pissed. I go draw a card. Mark Clayton was the card I drew.
The Tecmo gods.
The Tecmo gods are real, man.
They are real.
Was that one a gold one? Or
no, it wasn't gold. It wasn't gold. It was a double.
It was the equivalent of a middle finger.
But that's how Retro Nathan got back in. Was he lost, got back in again to get second place, and Jock, who is not really into Tecmo taking third, he got back in and just got some luck. Plus he had a lot of fire, so I think some people were kind of scared of him.
He had a lot of fire.
He was just screaming on every play. So But it was a blast. Sammy Smith did an unbelievable job, and I hope he does it again next year.
Yeah, that's a tournament.
Those like laminated graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Real cool.
Yeah, that's a tournament I want to get to. Hopefully next year. It sounds like a blast.
The NBA.
All right, yes.
That, unfortunately.
NBA Jam. So let's talk about that. That was the next day of the Tecmo Cleveland Jam tournament on the Sunday. And first place was a guy from Chicago. You might have heard of him, Green Magic. Second was DPS, also from Chicago, plays with us at Demon Tap. Third was the guy who runs the tournament, Tom Jenkins.
Okay.
And fourth was Kevin Cabarello.
All right.
It was me.
All right, Mort.
What does that say?
So, Mort, how was this one?
Very good. We had a lot of fun. I think we had about 29-30. It took us a lot less time. NBA Jam goes quicker.
Yeah.
A lot of players there. Most of them, I don't think they were really ready for the. We call it when we play Green Magic and DPS. We just call this game NBA Shove. On the Sega, it's just all pushing and shoving. And DPS and Green Magic are the masters of it. And DPS can barely hold up. Sometimes he can take down Green Magic, but most of the time nobody can keep down on Green Magic shoving. The player who actually came closest to beating Green Magic was actually Tom Jenkins. Tom had a lead on him in the third quarter of the game, which he did record. I don't know if he's released a recording he made of it, but he was up on him in the third quarter, but eventually Green Magic shoves eventually by the end of the third quarter at the start of the fourth, Green Magic got unfired, and that was the end of that. But if it wasn't for that, Tom, who was running the tournament and was the best local player in Jam, he just wasn't ready for the amount of shoving in NBA Jam TE at the Sega.
So, do you think the shoving is? Have they broke the game yet? Do they need to put in a rule at all, or no?
No. Well, what we've discovered through a lot of practice.
This is the big secret right here. This is what Green Magic figured out.
What he did.
He figured out that the injuries do not reset after the quarter.
Oh yes, they don't.
So even they do not reset. So if the player, let's say Steve Smith on a Heat gets 10 injuries in the first quarter, you see him out the second quarter, he comes back in the third quarter with those 10 injuries, and he's moving at that speed. So that was the big secret going into the tournament that Green Magic discovered, and that's why Tom Jenkins lost to Green Magic, because Tom Jenkins at the end of the first quarter, he put in a guy off his bench. The thing we discovered, you have to save one player for the second half. If you can get away with him, you got to save him for the fourth quarter.
Yeah. I'm slow. So give me the strategy here one more time.
So the strategy is you have to save at least one player where you don't use one player the entire first half, and usually it's got to be your best player. And you have to save him at least for the first quarter. And then sometimes if you can get away with it and he doesn't come into the fourth quarter, even better. If you can have the game tied with someone either fresh in the third or fourth, that's the only way you'll stand a chance. Tom Jenkins, he was ahead and he was beating Green Magic. But since he had used all three of his characters over the first and second, by the end of the third quarter, the two guys he put out there were too beat up to keep the speed up. And Green Magic, who had saved the player, was able to take advantage of that and pull ahead of the game.
Wow, that is amazing. That is so crazy that no one has ever figured that out till now.
Yeah. And then the strategy came about on it. And then there's other strategies, like the three-point shot is really hard in it, but it can be done consistently from certain spots. The longer you hold the button helps. Of course, that makes you more open to being shoved. But
yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so Tom Jenkins was pretty confident that he was going to place well, and he did. He got third place. But I told him before the tournament, I'm like, I'm confident someone from Chicago is definitely going to win this tournament. And it's because I knew that no one probably knew about this injury not resetting.
Most of the local players, unfortunately, didn't really know how important shoving was. I mean, to agree, Tom Jenkins and them, and I mean, Kevin Carviello knew, of course, but even after playing nonstop practice games against DPS and Green Magic, I almost was able to beat Kevin Carviello in a game where I'm not that great at it, but it's like all of a sudden, because I played against two really good guys, and all of a sudden I'm one of the best shovers out there. So it's like, yep, I got my shove game going. I'm going to do really good at this, and I got fifth, and I'm real happy. I came this close to getting fourth place.
I wonder if it's got to get to a point where you got to put in the unlock the player codes for every time before you play to get the extended rosters of 5 guys.
We talked about it, but some teams only have 3 players. Some teams only have 4. Some will have 6.
Yeah,
and it's unbalanced. And then I think there's even a team that doesn't get anybody. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, Hawks. Hawks. Yeah, they only got 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? So
that might have to happen.
The other thing, I think we just need to test and play some of the other NBA Jam tees because there's so many different.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if all of the other ones are like this, but the Sega Genesis version is. So
the Super Nintendo one would be very nice.
So we have to play those more and push the crap out of each other and figure out if this exists in the other ones as well. Because then we could discover that there might be a better one for a tournament than this one. But I think discovering this made it like the game had more depth the way they were playing because they knew this and the strategy of substitution. So I don't know, but it was interesting.
All this talk reminds me of the Thursday before Madison. I rolled up to DT's house. A couple guys went and met there, and I think it was me and Invader Star, and we played to help because neither of us were going to Madison, but we played DT and B-Wag and Extra Large. And I mostly just played regular NBA Jam. So we're playing NBA Jam tournament, and they're pushing the shit out of us. I wanted to punch him in the face, right? Yeah. And of course, especially B-Wag, he's chirping.
Oh, he chirped so much, man.
Oh, I know. Then I heard what happened, at Madison. I'm like,
team basketball.
Oh, because in the middle of it, he'd be like, like when he's setting them up, just being a dick. Oh, that was an eye-opening experience.
I say hi to Hank.
Hank in the chat.
Hey, Hank.
Holy smokes, he lives.
Hank.
All right, so a bunch of other tournaments to recap here, so I'll start firing them out there. Phoenix, Arizona. There was another Tecmo Tour event on August 11th, so the next weekend. First place was Michael Burkhart, and second place was Disaster Master. Sometimes I get the names right, so thanks for wrong. So thanks for correcting me, guys. And then that same day, there was 2 other tournaments. One of them was an NHL 94 tournament at the Long Island Gaming Expo. And also there was a Tecmo tournament that day. The one that was NHL 94 tournament was run by King Raph. He's one of the best players out there of NHL 94. He holds a bunch of world records. He ran that tournament along with a few other guys. Arda O'Call was one of the guys that was announcing for this tournament. First place was Corbett. Second place was a guy named Scotty. Third, fourth was Schoolyard Puck and Dan M.
I watched a bit of it. They had a really good stream. It was fun. It was a fun watch.
Yeah, and
it was a bit confusing initially because they actually had a different YouTube channel covering one of the games or one of the series, and then they cut it over later in the day to King Raph's stream, and that kind of normalized it all. But it was trying to find where they were playing initially was a little.
Yeah, actually, that's where I caught the first game was because they had a former NHL player playing in the tournament. So,
are you serious? That's amazing.
Yeah. Now, and like a recent NHL player, he was like an enforcer. Colton Orr, I think his name is. He was pretty good at it too. It was fun to watch.
Nice.
Yeah, they had like 32 players, so they get some good turnouts for these NHL 94 tournaments. I think that's pretty good to have that at a convention and get that perfect amount that you would like.
Yeah, it's the perfect number. Those 8s.
Yeah. And then that same day was another Tecmo tournament. Bad Moon Rising ran the tournament, and he also won the tournament, Brian R. Second place was a guy named Danny K, and third was Matt DeGeorge. Not sure what the turnout was there, but that seems to be an annual event that they do there at the convention. Then a couple days later, we did a little NHL 94 tournament at D-Men Tap in Chicago. We had Angry J 93 in town, who was the king of 94 Vegas champion last year. He ended up winning the tournament. No surprise there. Second place was Brutus, and Brutus played great. He actually got a win versus Angry J in pool play. But
he's pretty big on the boards over on NHL 94, Brutus.
Yeah, he plays good, but the championship game, Angry J took it out on him, and he won pretty convincingly. But it's a lot of fun playing with those guys. NHL 94 is definitely a weakness for me as far as skill, but I think it's something that I would like to get more into. Do you want to get more into NHL 94?
It's a fun game. Why not?
The correct answer is yes, because you'll have an opportunity to play it in February. Hint, hint.
Yeah. I'm getting better at it. I held down pretty good.
I like the pace of the game, how they go by so quick.
Yeah, that's nice.
Like there was a game that I played in single elimination versus EA, and I had him sweating a little bit because I had a 1-0 lead after 2 periods. He's like, "Oh man, you got a hot Belfour," but of course he got on a scoring streak and just finished me off in the third. But it's just like, you know, the game's so fast. It's like if you play some defense for a little while, you can possibly sneak out a win.
Yeah, it's a fun. I mean, I think those games and NBA Jam too, it's a little more open play. With Tecmo, there's a little more advanced with calling your plays every single time, and you need to know less, I think, playing NHL than like a Tecmo, which makes it a little bit easier for people to pick up and play.
Yeah, I agree. But the scoring moves, you're really going to need to know how to score to compete overall. But you can't.
That sounds like a meathead button masher Tecmo guy talking right there.
With NHL 94, what I generally find is you have to be able to rock your manual goalie control, and you have to be able to be creative because you're playing a kind of a 50-50 game with, you know, the trying to go across the goalie or a slap shot or a deke move, and you're basically trying to just get that human player trying to guess is he can take control of his goalie or not, and which way is he going, left or right. So it's constantly that back and forth, and then knowing who you can check and who you can't based on the weight bug. And so you have to, if you want to be like a top player, you need to know, just like you need to know the hitting power rating for Icky Woods, for instance, or against Fulcher. You know, if you're playing as the Lions, you got to know that all of your skill guys can be popcorned by Fulcher. That's the kind of stuff you still have. If a top play for NHL, you have to know.
Yeah, that hitting part blew me away. The defensemen are almost all virtually useless.
That same night, I was talking about the Thursday before Madison. I heard about that too. I was like, when he's heavier, he loses the checks.
Yeah,
I was like, what?
Only when you control him.
Okay, see, I didn't even know that.
Oh, that's a whole nother episode. We don't have enough time tonight for all that, but yeah.
Well, in a couple months, up in Vancouver is the King of 94.
That'll be a fun one.
We might take a little Tecmo Northwest contingent up there.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
some good guys up there running that. Check it out.
We would get waxed, I'm sure.
Well, the Super Nintendo and Genesis, which of course 2 different developed games, so you pick your poison, but there's plenty of opportunity.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Is like both games are played in tournament, and the differences in them, because Angry J was going over with us, and we've only ever touched the Sega version. But that's pretty cool as well that they get tournaments and they'll do both at the same day, and they got the time because the game goes quicker, which is nice.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next tournament. It was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and it's a closed tournament. It's actually a season. It's the No Frills Tough Guy League. I don't know if you guys watched it last weekend, but it's kind of turned into one of my favorite things to view in retro sports gaming because of the amount of time that they're live. They go from Friday morning to Sunday night. They're live for 3 days straight, all day, every day, all night. And they play a season with 10 guys, Tecmo Super Bowl III. So the championship game is called the Man Bowl, and the winner this year was a guy in their 20th season that's played all the seasons but has never won, and that's Jared with the Chicago Bears.
Nice.
Bears.
It went to Jared.
And he beat Ray Bordier. He's the guy who runs it all. He uses the Carolina Panthers. That if you didn't catch the finals for the Man Bowl, it's an excellent game. It comes down to the wire. It's definitely worth a look. And it's just funny hearing all the guys in the background cheering, who they're rooting for, interacting with the chat. Then the expressions of the players playing, since they know each other so well, they don't mind laying it all out there. You know, it's not like being at one of these tournaments where you're next to a guy playing a guy you don't know. Like, they know each other so well, so they're just spitballing the whole time. But No Frills Tough Guy League, if you haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah, it's a cool thing.
Best you do.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah,
It might be something I have to play in a couple of years.
yeah.
I haven't played the Super Nintendo version in a while, but maybe in a year or two that might be a good time.
I mentioned it to Ray before. I'm like, you should get Mort to play in this one of these seasons. I know you're down to travel anywhere.
I'm down to travel. If I got the time, more constraints, tournaments. But
And one more tournament to recap, and that was the Tecmo Players Championship qualifier that we ran in Chicago last weekend. Mort ran the tournament. There was 7 of us, and it was tough, to say the least. It was about half of the length of what the actual tournament will be. But Green Magic won that tournament, so he's turning into like one of the best retro sports gamers out there. He wins the NBA Jam TE. I think he surprised both of us winning this tournament over Tecmo Bow. I thought that I would probably be in the finals playing Tecmo Bow.
I kind of figured that,
but it didn't happen that way.
But I think most surprising, besides Green Magic, was the run Marcius. Oh, he had a great run in that tournament. I played him in a Chicago versus the Jets, and I got a couple breaks, and he wasn't familiar with Chicago, and he was like, part of it, I'm not going to let you beat me with this, but I still beat him in it. After that, it's like he turned on a switch after that, and after that, until he played Green Magic in the elimination games, he was on fire, and just a great performance.
Yeah, he can play good defense. He played at the hardcore tournament. He was a guy I didn't know anything about, and then when he came and he played, he's got some skill. So it's always good to have those guys come to the tournament that maybe I don't know if he's played in a live tournament before, but there was a few guys that played at Tecmo Hardcore that are guys that can play right off the bat, and they could put up good games, and he's one of them. So yeah, the Green Magic Tecmo Bow games, they're on my channel on that stream. You want to fast forward to those. They're all 3 of them are good games. They're really impressive games between those 2 guys. There's a lot of turnovers, but overall Green Magic played great. And the thing is, if he decides he's going to dive into a game, he goes in deep, and he gets good at it. And just a few upcoming tournaments. The board's pretty clear for once. The New Orleans tournament is canceled. The one that was September 8th. Supposed to be September 8th. It's not happening anymore. They didn't have enough players signed up to make it happen. So that's canceled. It's not happening. I was looking forward to see how that one would work out at a brewery, but maybe the next standalone tournament will do better. We'll see. Then, of course, we brought Mort on to talk about the Tecmo Players Championship. That is September 22nd. So next month, about a month away. So the good thing is, for players that are thinking about it, they haven't signed up yet.
Plenty of time.
Yeah, plenty of time. The hotel prices start to dip in Chicago like 3 to 2 weeks out, because there's a ton of them. It's just, you know, they're waiting to see if they can upcharge you.
I did want to mention the October 20th hardcore full Nelson tournament. We will confirm by the end of the week. We're making sure the venue is going to be A-OK and the sponsorship package lined up. So we're got a couple check boxes, but we're like 95% sure we're moving forward with that. So that's
I didn't know that was still a thing.
Yep, it is. We're just waiting on a couple things. So
it's the same day as the New York tournament, the New York Tecmo Super Bowl tournament in Astoria, New York. I think that's also an annual tournament for those guys.
Yep.
So they
5th, 6th year running. That's really New York City. That's basically just, I think, north of Queens, right close to the airport, to LaGuardia.
So they got a tournament there, and then the last one, and we've talked about this the last few times, is the King of '94 tournament in Vancouver. So that's one. If you want to play in the biggest NHL '94 tournament, one of the biggest retro gaming tournaments out there.
Vancouver's an awesome city too.
Oh, you've been there?
Oh yeah, I was in the Olympics, baby. I got my cousin was on the curling team. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
12-ounce curls or curling?
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's what Nick the Commish would be in the Olympics for.
Yeah.
I can vouch for Vancouver being a beautiful city too. Yeah. I'm hoping we can go.
Yeah, I'd love. If I had the kitchen passes, I'd be there in a heartbeat.
it's 12-ounce curls. It's like moonshine. Hell yes.
The Commish always looking for those kitchen passes.
They get rarer and rarer, man.
It's gonna be total lockdown pretty soon for you, buddy. All right, guys. Well, we've been out live for quite a bit. Is there anything else you guys want to add before we close this out?
I guess hearts go out to the Madden guys. That's a horrible situation over there. That's a real sad deal.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, was that their championship or is this a standalone? No?
I think it was like a qualifying tournament.
The guy lost where he was, which I think was in Buffalo. And then I believe the shooting happened. It was in Jacksonville today. And again, if someone feel free to correct me if I'm just going off where I remember. So
they have video of the actual Twitch stream where you can hear the shots. It's pretty haunting.
Yeah, don't listen to it. They'll haunt your dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's a certain way to lose, and that's not the way to do it. And hopefully something like that never happens. But I know at these tournaments that I've been to for Tecmo, everyone's good people, and I don't foresee anything like that ever happening.
No.
If you see something, say something, right?
Yeah.
Hey, maybe that's one advantage to that lower profile we still have.
Right?
Yeah. We just get mad when you throw those antique controllers. If somebody throws an antique controller, everybody's like, "What the hell, man? It's a 20-year-old controller."
Throws a third place trophy. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Flo.
If there was a Tecmo shooting, they wouldn't be like, "Well, how many people died?" The first question would be like, "What the hell is Tecmo?"
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right,
be safe out there, folks.
Yeah.
Stay safe. Guys.
Thanks for watching tonight. If you watch this on repeat, let us know. Just comment on anything we said because we covered a lot tonight.
They should like the video too, so it shows up in the feed for people.
Oh yeah, do all that.
Mash that like button.
Little cute YouTube stuff, like and subscribe.
Yeah, you got to do like one of those things like click below and then click to the side and watch me.
Click here.
Yeah.
No, I can't do it. I can't find it in me to do all that. You know, I just go live with a bunch of dudes that like to play old games, and that's it.
There you go.
If you like it, you like it. If you don't,
your Delta Bravo level isn't high enough.
Yeah.
So, all right, Camp. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for joining us, Mort. And then you'll see Nick the Commish and Troy GB land again. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.